Good morning, everybody. My name is Cameron. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This channel is primarily going to be a music channel. The keyboard, the drums, maybe a little bass, but primarily probably keyboard and drums. And we're either going to be going over some, foundational things, some beginner lessons, some tutorials, maybe a song here and there, or just a video of me playing. But today we're going to go over the keyboard, and we're going to go over some beginner things and foundational things just to get you started, to get you to understand what's going on, and then later on we'll move on from there. So we're going to start with the note names on the keyboard. This right here, this note is A. This is B. This is C. This is D. This is E. This is F. This is G. And then back to A again. And then it just repeats. So this is A. This is A. It's the same note. One is higher, one is lower. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now a lot of people, they like to start with C instead of A, because if you go from C to C, this is and just hitting all these keys, this is the C major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But it doesn't matter where you start, because we're just going over note names right now. So those are all the white keys. Now for the black keys, we reference the black keys in relationship to the white keys. So this black note right here, because this is G, and because this is A, we can either call this G sharp, G sharp. Sharp just means to go up a half step or one note. Or we could call it A flat, because we're going down a half step or down one note. Most people call this note A flat. A flat. You could call it G sharp, G sharp. It doesn't matter. For this one, it's the same thing. We have F, we have G, so we can call it F sharp. We can call it G flat. This one, we have A and we have B. We can call it A sharp or B flat. For this one, we have C and we have D. So we can go C sharp. Most people reference it as C sharp. We could call it D flat, but most people don't say D flat. They say C sharp. And lastly, for this black key, we have D and we have E. We could call it D sharp, but most people call it E flat. And so those are all the notes on the keyboard. We have A sharp or B flat, B, C, C sharp or D flat, D, D sharp or E flat, E, F, F sharp or G flat, G, G sharp or A flat, and then back to A again. So those are the note names for each note on the keyboard. And so now we're going to talk about whole steps and half steps. Whole steps and half steps. Basically, a whole step means you're going up two notes. So if I start on C and if I go to D, that's a whole step, because we were here, we went up one, up another one. So we went up 1, 2 steps. if I just go from C to C sharp, that's a half step because we only went up one step. So that's a whole step. I'm sorry, that's a half step. That's a half step. That's a whole step because we went up 2 notes instead of 1. And so all of these scales, the major scale, the minor scale, these scales are built on whole steps and half steps. So, for example, let's choose the key of C because it's all white notes. If we start on C, now we're just going to deal with the major scale first. So the major scale is all these notes: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But we're going to look at the distance between each note, and we're going to see if it's a half step or a whole step. So from C to D, it's a whole step because we have this note in between, 1, 2. It's a whole step. From D to E, we have another whole step. But from E to F, it's a half step because there's nothing in between. So we're just going up 1 note. Then F to G is another whole step because we have this note in between. So we're going up 2 notes. G to A, another whole step. A to B, another whole step. But now B to C, that's a half step because there's nothing in between. So we're just going up 1 note. So starting with C, if we go by whole steps and half steps, we go up a whole step, a whole step, a half step, a whole step, a whole step, a whole step, and a half step. And that's your major scale. So, and this major scale applies to all keys. So, let's say we go up to C sharp, we're at C sharp, and we want to do the major scale. It's the same thing, the same order of whole steps and half steps. So we're here, C sharp, we go to E flat, whole step, we go to F, another whole step, a half step, A flat, this is F to F sharp, a whole half step, remember, to A flat, a whole step, to B flat, a whole step, to C, a whole step, to C sharp, a half step. Right? Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And I plan to put it in the description, the whole steps and half steps in the order for the major scale and the minor scale, just so you can see it. But anyway, so that's the major scale. And let's do one more. We're going to do my favorite key, which is A flat. So we have our A, and we're going A flat, which means we're going down 1 note, A flat. So let's do it. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. See, so the same formula applies to any key. The major scale is going to be the same. And so now let's do the minor scale, because you need to know your major scale and you need to know your minor scale as well. So going back to C, the minor scale is going to be a little bit different. So we have a whole step, Then we go to a half step. Then we go to a whole step. Another whole step. A half step. A whole step. And another whole step. So that's the C minor scale. Right, major scale, minor scale. So you can see there are a couple notes that are the same, but there are, I want to say, 3 notes that are different. So, right, this is the same thing, but in the major scale, you go up another whole step. But in the minor scale, you go up a half step. So I'm going to put that in the description once again, just so you can see whole steps and half steps for each scale, the major scale and the minor scale as well. And one more thing I'm going to go over right now, and we're not done yet. We're probably about halfway through. We are going to go over scale degrees. All that scale degree means is that each note in the scale corresponds to a number. That's it. So basically we have our notes and our scale. All we're going to do is assign a number to each note. That's it. So let's go over the C major scale, right? So this is our first note in the scale. So we're going to call that the 1. This is our second note, so we call it the 2. This is our third note, we call it the 3. This is our fourth note, we call it the 4. This is our fifth note, we call it the 5. This is our sixth note, we call it the 6. This is our seventh note, we call it the 7. And this is back to our first note, which is the 1 again. So we just assign a number to each note, 1 through 7, and then we start over with the 1 again. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And that's what a scale degree is. So if I'm in my key of C, in my major scale, and somebody says go to the 4, that means go to the 4th note in that scale. So if we do our scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, that means we're going to go to this F. If somebody says go to our 7, we're going to the 7th note in our scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's all it is. And so with the minor scale, it's basically the same thing. But let's say, for example, in the major scale, we say go to our 3. It's going to be this E. But if we go to the C minor scale, that third note was E flat, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Right, so notice at the 7, I went here to B flat. Instead of in the major scale, if I were to go to the 7, like we did a couple minutes ago, I would have went here. So knowing the major and minor scale, you need to know that. And then knowing your scale degrees for each scale you're in, you need to know that. Because if you're in C major, your 3 is going to be right here, this E. If you're in C minor, your 3, your third note in the scale, is going to be this E flat. So that's important. Okay, so a couple more things, and then we're just going to wrap it up. But we're just going to briefly go over everything we just went over really quick. And you can always rewind the video if you need to. Our note names. I like to start with A. You can start with C. You can start with F. It doesn't matter, right? But I like to start with A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And then these black notes we reference in relation to the white notes. So this, we have C and D, C sharp, or D flat. Either one. We have D sharp or E flat. We have F sharp or G flat, G sharp or A flat, A sharp or B flat, and that's it. So we went through all 12 notes and all 12 notes on the keyboard. And then whole steps and half steps. A whole step means we're going up 2 notes. A half step means we're going up only 1 note. And the way you order your whole steps and your half steps is going to determine which key, if you're in a major scale or a minor scale, or a major key or a minor key. Which means if I'm in C and I'm doing the minor scale, right, I'm going to whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. If I was in C major, it would be whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That's it. All right. So now we are going to go and talk about chords. So we're just going to start off with the simplest chord. We're going to start out with a major chord. Okay? So a major chord, you're going to use the first note, the third note, and the fifth note of the scale. So if I go to C, right? It's C, and I do my C major, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to use the first note in the scale, the third note in the scale, which is E, and the fifth note in the scale, which is G. And that's my C major. Now, let's say if I wanted to go to a minor chord and I wanted to do C minor instead. Well, if we go over our C minor scale, it's going to be the same thing. The first note, the third note, which in this case is going to be E flat, not E, but E flat, and then G. So the C, the G stay the same, but the E is going to be E flat instead. So the first note, the third note, and the fifth note, this is C minor, because we're in a minor scale or minor key. If we went to C major, it would be C, E, and G, because we're in a major key. So that's basically your 2 basic chords, or beginner chords rather, your major chord and your minor chord. So let's say if I went to E flat, and I wanted to do an E flat major chord, I would do go over the first 5 notes of the scale. And remember, we're in a major, and when you're first starting out, you want to remember your half steps and your whole steps, because that's going to tell you which note is next and what notes are in that scale. So in E flat, and we're going major, I'm going to go a whole step, a whole step, a half step, a whole step. So I went over the first 5 notes, and the notes I'm going to choose are the first note, the third note, and the fifth note. that's my E flat major. Now if I was going to go to E flat and do E flat minor, right, let's choose out the first 5 notes. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, first note, third note, and 5th note. So this is E flat minor, okay? So it's basically the same thing. Let's go to F, our F scale, F major scale, and this is the last example, right? Whole step, half step, whole step, right? And we went through the first 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to choose the first, the third, and the 5th. That's F major. Now if we want to go to F minor, we do the same thing, but remember the minor scale, so we got to remember the order of the whole steps and half steps, right? Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, and we choose out the first, the third, and the 5th. The first note, the third note, and the 5th note. F minor, okay? And so that's basically how you formulate a major chord. That's how you formulate a minor chord. A major chord, the first, the third, and the 5th of your major scale. The minor is going to be the same thing, the first, the third, and the 5th, but it's of the minor scale, which means that third note is going to be a note lower than if you were in the major scale. And so the last thing we're going to talk about is progressions. A progression is basically how do I say this? I would say a progression is just the scale degrees of your scale put in a certain order, any order that you want. That might sound a little vague and confusing. So hopefully I can demonstrate it and you can understand what I'm saying. Okay, so let's go back to the key of C. Our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1. Right, C major. Okay? So if I, let's say, have a progression, the progression is going to be 1, 5, 6, 4. Okay? So our progression is 1, 5, 6, 4. Which means we go to our first note in the scale, and we're going to play a chord with that. Then we're going to go to the 5th note in our scale. We're going to play a chord with that. Then we're going to go to the 6th note in our scale. We're going to play a chord with that. Then we're going to go to the 4th note in our scale and play a chord with that. And so just something to remember, kind of not necessarily a hard rule of thumb, but in a lot of cases, the first note of your scale, the 4th note, and the 5th note, when you play those chords, they're going to be a major chord. The 2nd note of the scale, the 3rd note of the scale, and the 6th note of the scale, most of the time those are going to be minor. And then your 7th note, you can play what's called a diminished chord, or you could play, you can go to your 5 in your other hand and play that chord while you're hitting your 7. So basically, if I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, on this 7, I can play our 5th note. I can make a chord with that. So I'm on the 7th note of the scale, but my chord is coming from the 5th note. Now, if you wanted to do a diminished chord on the 7, you don't have to. A diminished chord, let's formulate a diminished chord really quick. It's basically 3 notes, and each note is 3 half steps away from the other notes, right? So if I'm here, I count 1, 2, 3, and then I do it again. 1, 2, 3, and that's a diminished chord. So you have your starting note. You go up 3 half steps, and then you go up 3 half steps again. And that's a diminished chord. You don't have to play diminished chords, but that's what it is. So going back to these progressions, remember our progression: 1, 5, 6, 4. So as I said, our 1 is going to be major, our 5 is going to be major, our 6 is going to be minor, and then our 4 is going to be major again. So on our 1, we're going to play a C major chord. 1, 3, and 5. So we play that on our 1. Then we go to the 5, which is G, and our 5 is going to be major too. So if you look at our G, 1, 3, and 5, that's what we play on our 5, a G major. Now we go to our 6, it's going to be minor. Remember, the 2, the 3, and the 6 are minor. So we have our 1, we have our 3, which is going to be here, and then we have our 5 right here. This is A minor. And then if we go to our 4 is F, and our 4 is going to be major, just like our 1 and just like our 5. So if we go to our F, the first note, the third note, our 5th note. So now we have our chords that we're going to play with each note. And so before I play it all together, I just want you to understand what's going on. We're in the key of C. We're in the key of C major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. We have our progression. First note, the 5th note, the 6th note, and our 4th note, right? We know how to create a major chord, the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th of the scale. And we know how to create a minor chord, the same thing, the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th of the scale, because remember, we're using those whole steps and half steps. So this 3rd note is going to be different depending on if we're in our major scale or our minor scale. So we have our progression, we know how to make our chords, we know which chords are going to be major, right? Our 1, our 4, and our 5. We know which chords are going to be minor chords, our 2, our 3, and our 6. And then our 7th chord, we could either play a diminished chord. Wait. Yep. We can play a diminished chord, or we can go to our 5 while we play our 7. Excuse me, this is our 7. So when we go to our 7, we can play a diminished chord, or we can play our 5 chord, which is going to be major, while we play our 7. So now, when I tell you we're in the key of C major and I say 1, 5, 6, 4, we go to our 1, we go to our 5. We go to our 6. We go to our 4. We go to our 1. Go to our 6. No, I'm sorry. We go to our 5. Then we go to our 6. Then we go to our 4. We go to our 1, which is major. We go to our 4, which is major. No, I'm sorry. We go to our 1, which is major. We go to our 5, which is major. We go to our 6, which is minor. We go to our 4, which is major. And that's basically it. That's a lot of the foundationals right there. Knowing your note names, knowing half steps and whole steps, how to make a scale, knowing your scale degrees, counting, assigning a number to each note in the scale. You know how to make a chord, a major chord and a minor chord, and that's based on the scale, right? The whole steps and half steps if we're major or we're minor. And now we can do progressions because we know our scales, we know our note names, we know how to make our major chord and our minor chord. So when we call out numbers, we know which notes to hit, and we know what type of chord it's going to be. So let's say, one more example, the same thing, but let's say we go to the key of A flat, right? We have our A, and then flat right here, because we went down A flat, and then our A flat scale, right? Same thing, just lower, higher, and it's major, so we're gonna go whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And if we assign numbers to it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And we know our major chord, the first, the third, and the fifth of the major scale. And we know our minor chord, the first, the third, and the fifth of the minor scale. Right? So now, the same thing I just did, I'm going to go 1, 5. Oh, let me show you what I'm doing there. Okay, I didn't want to really go into this. I'm playing what's called an inversion. Inversion just means you're changing the order of the notes. So if I have my notes here, this is root position, right? Because our A flat is the name of our chord. This is our 1, and it's on the bottom. If I want to do first inversion, I take it up here. This A flat goes up here. So now, the same exact chord. It's just in a different position. The A flat moved up here. That's first inversion. If I go to second inversion, I'm going to take my lowest note now and move it up here. That's second inversion, but it's the same note. It's the same chord because we have our A flat, our C, and our E flat. They're just arranged differently. So this, it's all the same thing. Just the notes are in a different order. So when I'm here on my 1, it's the same thing as if I was here. I just like to play it this way depending on what song I'm doing. But it's the same thing. So we have our 1. We have our 5. We have our 6. We have our 4. Right? We have our 1, which is going to be major. We have our 5, which is also going to be major. We have our 6, which is going to be minor. And we have our 4, which is going to be major, right? And so progression. It was 1, 1, 5, 6, 4, over and over and over again. And to spice it up, I played my chords in different inversions, right? My 1, I could play it here, here, here. Same thing. I arpeggiated my chords, which means instead of playing all the notes at the same time, you can play them one at a time or two together and then one, or, you just switch it up. So instead of playing this, I played this. I could play this. I could play this. The same thing. You're hitting the same notes. You're just playing around with how you hit it and the order and the fingering just to make it sound different. And that's about it. I threw in a couple, maybe passing chords in there. A passing chord is just something a chord or a lick you put in there in between two other different chords just to fill up space or make it sound a little better. But that's kind of going not in the direction we wanted to go, because this is mostly a foundational video. But anyway, yeah, we went over our note names, our whole steps and half steps, our major and our minor scale. We went over our chords. We went over our progressions. And when we put out all that together, we can make a song out of it, which is what we just did. God is able to do just what he said he would do. He's gonna fulfill every promise to you. Right? That's he's able. So, yeah, there you go. I hope you learned something from it. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully this is the first video of many. I thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you all enjoy your day.